Hey there, my name is Dave Wilber, consulting agronomist, author, podcaster, and now vidcaster. Good morning. How are you? How's things? I'm happy to be here. Welcome to another live feed. Pretty stoked about this. Pretty excited about what's going on. Got a lot of things happening with all of this, and hold on while I just get a couple of settings straight, and then we're right to it here. All right, cool. This whole going live thing is it's real. It's real. All right, well, thanks for joining me. I see people flooding in here, which is really great, and of course you can see this all on my YouTube channel. And if you don't mind, please like and subscribe. That's it. That's all I'm asking for right now. That's what we need to keep this thing growing. So that's a good thing. Well, again, as I said, my name is Dave Wilber, and if you've never seen me before, I have spent my life for the last 30 years now in the turfgrass industry, in the golf business. Working with golf turf. In my consulting career, I started consulting in the 1990s. I've gotten to play golf on all 7 continents. I've got to consult with golf course construction, turfgrass in some fashion or another on 6 continents in about 80 countries. So, I don't know. I'd say I've been around. The Turfgrass Zealot project is a podcast that TurfNet was kind enough to host for a long time. We still may do some Turfgrass Zealot project podcasts over there. That's up to TurfNet. But what I'm doing here is building a YouTube channel, and we're going to do some cool stuff here. So this is my deal. This is my shot. What I'm going to be about is a lot of truth, a lot of straightforward stuff, and all that sort of thing. Last week we did a great session, live agronomy session, talking about water movement in soils, and it had a huge amount of response, more than I expected, and I'm happy about that. We had some great questions from people, which we will cover in a follow-up session when we talk about water and water movement again. That's going to be good. And I think that what I love about all that is there's some people that are very cool about their thinking in our business, and a lot of that thinking came from I don't want to use the word just younger, but I think younger in the business. Does that make sense? Younger in the industry, and that may have to do with the fact that we are younger in the media development, in the way that I'm doing this may fit better with millennials and younger Gen Xers and that sort of thing. But I don't know about that. I don't want to say that for sure. I fall squarely in the Gen X thing. Born in 1966, which makes me a Gen Xer, and but I think 60 to 80 is the cutoff there. But I'm happy to be youthful in my world, in my delivery, in my presentation, and even at the ripe old age of nearly 55, I still have that younger mentality, younger mindset, all that sort of thing. So, where am I going with all this? Well, what I want to do is I want to talk to our younger in the business, younger in the world, younger in their career development stuff. And this is not pandering to an audience. This is because I have a heart for all this. And let me explain. Often on my consulting visits, I would be headed for the car, headed for the hotel, whatever. And a young assistant superintendent, a young turfy, an intern, somebody like that would walk up and, Mr. Wilber. Hey, can I talk to you a minute? Hey, I just, I have some questions or whatever. And, oh man, I used to love those conversations. And so I'd throw my bags in the rental car or whatever, and we'd sit on the hood of the car and talk about turf. And a lot of times it's like, hey, why don't you join me? Let's go get a drink, or let's go get dinner. That sort of stuff, because I was on the road. And I got to know some really fantastic people. Some of those people you know about now. I'll use one example. I'll use two examples. Two young men, Scott Bauer and Thomas Bastis at Spyglass Hill. If you don't know those names, Scott is golf course superintendent, director of agronomy, director of operations, I think is another way to look at his title. In charge of everything at Martis Camp Golf Club in Truckee, California, near Lake Tahoe. Fantastic place. It's one of the finest places that you'll probably never hear about. So, which they want that way. Thomas Bass is PGA Tour agronomist now, and spent a bunch of years at the California Golf Club, kicking ass. But these guys were both interning at Spyglass Hill. Gosh, this had to be 1992, 1993. Mr. Wilber, can we ask you some questions? And we sat there and talked for quite a while, and I just fell in love with these two guys. Good looking, had it all together, finishing their careers. Scott was at Michigan State. Thomas was finishing at Cal Poly. And we've been friends ever since. And they call me a mentor, but I've learned as much from them as they've learned from me, I think. Surely. So listen, what I'm getting at is I've spent a lot of time with assistant superintendents. I've spent a lot of time mentoring, coaching, and I hate to be ego-y about that, because as a golf course superintendent, I I had a couple of assistants that worked for me, great people, and different. They're always different. Everybody's different, and so I don't want to say that word mentor with any amount of ego. I think as a superintendent, it's your responsibility to be a mentor. And as far as it goes, through the rest of the career, I think that's a word that they use more than I use. All right, so let's get to it. All right, introduction over. I want to grind on in. Let's see if I've got the right screens up. Yeah, there we go. All right, so, and the no bullshit truth about being an assistant superintendent. The no bullshit truth about being an assistant superintendent. Here it is. Okay, and I'm not gonna pull any punches today. I'm warming up to this. All right, I'm warming up to this conversation. Because I think for a long time there's been a lot of chat, there's been a lot of talk. There's we all follow Turfgrass Twitter, and I hope you do. Turfgrass Zealot, by the way, at Turfgrass Zealot on Twitter. And there's a great community there, and I always enjoy the conversations. The thing is, okay? The thing is that I don't always see us talking straight about the good, the bad, and the ugly of being an assistant superintendent, the no bullshit truth. And so I started writing a little bit about this, and I've written in the past for TurfNet and other places about being a successful assistant, and and now we're seeing things like the assistant superintendent's boot camp that the Northern California Association does, and we the Excel Leadership Program, New Farm, and GCSAA do. I mean, there's so many great things, right? Syngenta Business Institute, assistants involved in that. Assistant development has become a popular topic, and of course, anybody who's in turf school is being told, hey, look, assistant superintendent, that's the stepping stone, that's what you got to do. And yes. When I was coming up into the business, none of us were assistants for very long. My particular situation was literally months, but a bunch of my friends were, not assistants for a long time. Superintendent's jobs were plentiful. There was a lot of motion in the business. There was a lot of movement, and it was kind of a given fact, that you would just sort of step through that. And I guess that's why internships and summer stuff was so important. Now that the business has slowed, and for good reasons, right? Because we were doing it wrong for a while, and it was costly. We were doing it wrong, and it was costly, and the business changed. And when you look back to 2007, 2008, our business changed completely. Now, what did that do? Well, that put a lot of golf course superintendents into the job market that assistants normally, held control of, right? And so now we have assistants and supers competing for the same jobs. And what started to happen is it became this kind of game about, where did you work, right? And the superintendent who'd been at a relatively obscure or unknown place, who had experience and tools and all kinds of stuff in their quiver, often overlooked because of somebody who spent a year at a top 100 type club, right? And that created a lot of animosity. We also started to see some people getting a little bit older in the business, and assistants, let's be straight, no bullshit truth here. Assistants come at a lower price as they want that first step, and they step into that. And so we saw some golf course superintendents being replaced, often not in a very happy situation. Let's be straight about that. It's a whole nother story, and I will get to that in another broadcast. I'm not gonna grab that one quite yet. All right, I'm warming up to it. I'm teasing you for that. So let's go back and let's talk specifically about assistant superintendents. Let's talk specifically about being a 2IC, as my friends in the UK would say, second in charge. You know, whatever that looks like. Different operations have different ways to look at that. And by the way, I'm not gonna address this issue about, you know, a lot of people being kind of upset that back in the day, a guy said to me, I was an assistant, but now in the new format, in the new formulations and stuff, now they call those guys superintendents, and the superintendent is the director of agronomy. I'm not gonna get into that right now. That's a different topic, and and possibly an unnecessary one. I don't know. It doesn't matter, right? I mean, you want to worry about GCSA classifications? I don't know. I think you're thinking about the wrong shit, quite frankly. Listen to me. Listen. This is a great business. This is still a fantastic business. I love this business. This week on Twitter, I asked, if you weren't growing grass, what would you do? And tons of people had great answers. It was great to see so many really cool, career paths that had changed or, whatever. Right? Also, what we saw inside of that is, some people that were a little bit disgruntled. They're like, well, I don't know. I don't know if I want to grow grass anymore, and that's fine. I understand. It's everybody, I think the numbers, and just the human nature of careers is that some people, will do the same thing for 30 plus years and some people will not. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And hey, just a reminder, feel free to put something in the chat if there's something on your mind about any of this. We'll get to it. Questions. So listen, this is turfgrass is a great career. It's a rewarding thing. I am very pro this career. Young people ask me, should I be in this game? Should I stay? Yes. If you have the heart and the mind and the soul for it, you have the love for it. And that's what we're going to get to talking about here in just a second, is that passion and that love. Yes, I am pro this deal. Okay. But things are changing. And you younger people, younger in the business here, people need to understand that things are changing, and that birds, flowers, trees, everybody happy kind of scenario that was sold in the 80s and 90s isn't necessarily what's going on right now. Right now, facilities, even at the higher end, are working a lot more with a lot less, with a lot higher expectations, period. There is no doubt about that. Okay? We're just doing more with less in the entire business. That's it. That's it. No bullshit. Okay? And so the job of the assistant superintendent is so different than it used to be. Assistants are just required to know more, to do more, to be part of more. It isn't as straightforward as it used to be. Now, in some operations that run smooth and have a pretty smooth path and everything like that, yeah, it's a little less chaotic, but it can be a chaotic kind of thing. All right, so what does chaos ensue? Well, for a lot of assistant superintendents, and this was certainly true with me when I was an assistant or a second assistant, crew foreman, whatever we called it back then. And then later as a golf course superintendent, we worked a lot of hours. I always ran smaller crews. We worked a lot of hours. My assistants and I, we spent a lot of time on the golf course. I think that may be changing a little bit. I think for me, that was driven by a whole lot of stuff, my psychology and my ideology, growing up in a farm and ranch situation, growing up, with my parents, my dad, being a chef and owning a restaurant, and We just worked a lot, and work was part of the whole thing. Good morning, chat. Thank you for being here. So anyway, I think the whole thing about long hours, long days, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's going to be part of it. You're going to work some long days. There are going to be some, especially in a more seasonal type situation, right? Going to be some long days. It just comes with it. That's all. That's a no bullshit thing. I don't think that's going to change. It may ebb and flow a little bit differently than it used to, but I still think that is part of it. Let me tell you about the psychological life that many golf course assistant superintendents and assistant, I want to spread this out a little bit into, sports turf and all that sort of stuff. If you're the second in charge, right? Again, in the UK, we'll hear the words 2IC. In Europe, 2IC. If you're second in charge, there are a lot of days where you feel like, hey, what the hell's going on here? I'm doing all the work, and he or she's getting all the credit. Right? In fact, I even had a boss who said, you're going to work your ass off, and I'm going to get all the credit for it. I mean, he was just straight up about it, and he wasn't being cruel when he said that. It was just real. The golf course superintendent did this. The golf course superintendent did that. No, the assistant did that. And so, is it bullshit that it works that way? No, it's just a truth. It's a truth that you're going to work hard, and you're not always going to get all the credit for it. And for some people, that is a very uncomfortable deal. As humans, we are often wired to say, well, I want to be acknowledged. Everybody wants to be acknowledged. Of course they do. So when an assistant, a 2IC, whatever, pulls some rabbit out of their hat and the superintendent says, yeah, we did that. And the assistant's sitting there going, fuck, I did it. You didn't do shit. You were in meetings all day. We're going to get to the meetings all day thing. No bullshit truth of being an assistant superintendent, being a second in charge. You're going to do a shit ton of work, okay? And you're not always going to get credit for it. Get over it. Get used to it. It's the way it's going to be. Okay? You can deal with that. Okay, let's talk about staff interactions. So, often as we're building into a new career, we don't have a ton of social life, or we may have a different kind of social life outside of career. But hey, you're at work with all these people all day, and you want to get along with them, you want to do all that sort of stuff. But here's the thing, and it's another no bullshit truth about being an assistant superintendent: you are not always going to be liked. You're not always going to be liked. You're going to have to push people sometimes. Ask them to do things that they don't want to do. Put them into dirty job type situations. Here, you know what? Today we're going to go clean out this culvert. Hey, we're going to go, put on our hip waders and pull weeds, whatever. There's a ton, we can all think of it, right? We can all think of the dirty jobs. And you're often the one assigning those dirty jobs or monitoring those dirty jobs. And so you're not always going to be liked. And let's take that one step further, okay? There are going to be people on the staff that are going to kiss your ass for the wrong reasons. Not because they like you, not because they think you're cool or whatever, because they don't want the dirty jobs. They want they want the good gig, right? That's it. You're not always going to be the most liked person. And in fact, if you're doing it right, if you're really doing it right, you're not going to be super popular sometimes. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't work that situation, and there is an ebb and flow, and great assistant superintendents know how far to push. They feel it, they feel they've they've cut in just enough, and that's just enough blood that I've gotten out of the staff. I need to back off a little bit. I've seen some real militant assistants who really are sure that the way to get everything they can out of people is just to be gnarly. Often that comes as example, from the superintendent, right? This is how it works from the top down. I don't know that that's the best way to work with and motivate people. All right, from the chat, since some of you can't see it in the chat, credit should be given as a team. With a team, we accomplish things. And thank you, Jarrett. We're going to get to that. Also from the chat, says Super can get credit from members and GM acceptor, but I like to see the Super recognize and appreciate the assistant. Yes, and great superintendents do that. They do that in a lot of different ways. So you're absolutely right. We're gonna get to that. I'm gonna finish this whole credit kind of thing because we're gonna talk about team. Beautiful segue to what I was about to talk to you. Now look. And whether you're an assistant, a super, or whatever, if you think that you're going to get the maximum amount of your people by being a bully, that is not the world that we live in anymore. That is not how it works. Okay? This is a whole different deal than it used to be in the 80s. I came up, and I don't want to say anything bad because I loved everybody that I worked with and worked for, But yeah, I'm going to admit it. No bullshit truth today, right? I could be kind of a bully. I could be pretty tough on people. And especially if they didn't want to step it up. I was like, what the fuck? What are you doing? But I learned pretty early on that the best way to get things done, was to do it by respect. And so we built team. And team, so I had played sports, and I think we all had done some of that, right? So sports is a good example that I'm going to use in some factor or another. Team gets more done than individual. Well, I guess unless you're playing tennis or golf. But still great golfers have a team, right? You working with a caddy, working with a swing coach, a group of people. But so we later on we adopted a rule, and the rule is that we were supportive and helpful with everybody on the team. Nobody got made fun of. Nobody got heckled. And anytime that was going on, I put a stop to it. That everybody on my team deserved to be supported, treated well. Yeah, sure. Every once in a while, there's going to be a joke or two, a laugh. Somebody gets, somebody does something silly and they get laughed at. I got laughed at a lot. Pole Creek Golf Club, Winter Park, Colorado. There's still Dave Wilber stories that they tell up there from some of the screw ups and some of the dumb shit that I did, right? I mean, you're going to leave your mark. You're going to leave your mark. But the number one thing, and again, no bullshit truth, that an assistant superintendent can do is they don't have to be everybody's friend, okay? But they can certainly be everybody's supporter. Do you know what that looks like? What that looks like is, hey, if somebody does something wrong, you correct them and you speak to them about it, possibly away from everybody else, without a ton of emotion, without, if you're mad, go breathe a little bit and come back to it. Okay. And, and we coach people through their challenges. It's not all soft, mushy mush kind of stuff, right? It's how to get good stuff out of people. If you watch the great coaches in the NBA and all that sort of stuff, they're passionate when they need to be, they're supportive when they need to be, their players love them, all that sort of stuff. And so here's the question. Assistants, as gnarly as some of the folks may be on your crew, and let's face it, golf course maintenance workers, they can all, some of them can be kind of gnarly. There can be some language barrier, all that sort of stuff, but do they like you? And like means that did you show them the courtesy and the respect? And when did you catch them doing something good? Or are you always just the guy there barking when nothing's right? How about this? catch your staff doing something great, take good care of them when they do it. That's a win. That's a win. That's fully win. All right, let's go back to dealing with a golf course superintendent. No bullshit truth about being an assistant superintendent is you will have to deal with the superintendent. You will have to. And listen, let's face it, golf course superintendents, not always the easiest personality type to get along with. My experience is that our business, and I've talked about this a lot in my writing, speaking, all that sort of stuff, is our business draws a certain kind of people. You know, it draws some certain personality types. I don't know. I suppose we could do the Myers-Briggs testing and map it all out and all that sort of stuff. But you know, there is this kind of passionate, amazing thing that goes on. It is a personality type. I've seen it over and over again in all of my visits, in the thousands of superintendents that I've visited. I see there are some commonalities. I see there are commonalities in people coming up in the business as they look at this person and they say, God, what is wrong? What's wrong with this person? Stress monkey is a common word. And you know, what's going on? Right? What's happening between their ears? And let me just tell you something. It's a tough gig. We will go over the no bullshit truth of being a golf course superintendent in a future episode. But here is the thing, and this is no bullshit. You will have to deal with a golf course superintendent who sometimes can be one of the toughest people that you've ever met in your life. And sometimes one of the nicest people that you've met in your life. And sometimes it's hard to know when that's coming and when it's not. Golf course superintendents are fantastic people as a whole. Yes, there are exceptions, there are bad apples, all that sort of stuff. But you know, I love our business so much because of the salt of the earth kind of people that it seems to attract. I love the thinking, I love the intellect and all that sort of thing. It is rare in my experience that I don't find golf course superintendents that are mostly overworked. They can be overworked. There is so much going on. You know, you talk about an August day, you know, when the crew's there, when everything's happening, when payroll's got to get done, when the boss wants budgets and budget projections, when the green committee is meeting at 5 o'clock that night and you've been up since 4 o'clock that morning. Listen, that can put a lot of people in a really tough mindset. Okay. What can an assistant superintendent do in that situation? Well, part of it is not be high maintenance. That means asking great questions, knowing the job, getting the job done, taking care of the things that are put in front of them, staying on the move, and being prepared. And I've written and talked about all this before. You know? And the superintendent sometimes, yeah, it's like, where is this person? Why aren't they on the golf course? Why aren't they here? Why am I dealing with all this right now? You know, why are they in the clubhouse and all? You someday you will learn. I had an assistant of mine who moved into a superintendent's position call me after he'd been in that position about 6 months and say, God, I am so sorry. And I'm like, sorry for what? He said, sorry for doubting you. Sometimes I'd say, where is he? What's he doing? And I said, yeah, I heard from some of the guys that you would every once in a while say that, but I didn't, I knew what I was doing and I didn't really think it was a big deal to talk about it. And he goes, I just had no idea the maximum amount of shit that you were dealing with. And he didn't. He really didn't. That's true. I tried to explain it, and I tried to, as I was transitioning out onto that job, I tried to kind of give it to him. But until you've been there, you just don't know. Until you've seen it, you just don't know. And so listen, great assistant superintendents often put themselves in their boss's shoes and say, wow, look at the schedule they're keeping. Look at the stuff that they're doing. Look what's going on. From the chat, I find it's easier to attach credit to an individual, but most of the time it's the whole team. That's exactly true. It is not in the common vernacular to address a group. Yeah, I know, but it's the team getting it done. That's exactly right. Fantastic point. Thank you. Chat on these things has been great, by the way. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. All right, so yes, no bullshit truth of being a golf course superintendent is yes, you are going to have to deal with a golf course superintendent and as an assistant. That's all there is to it. You'll deal with it, and there'll be some days when you go, guy's crazy, and there'll be some days when it's like, wow, that's amazing. I learned a lot. There it is. All right. Let's move on to another no bullshit truth about our business right now and about being an assistant superintendent. Job prospects. Again, I mentioned it earlier. There used to be the day when it was a very quick transition through the ladder, up the ladder, over the ladder, across the void to the next thing, and there were a lot of young golf course superintendents. They had a limited amount of experience as assistants or interns and that sort of thing, and the business just moved fast. We were building a ton of golf courses. Everything was on the move, right? And it's not that way now. And hopefully it's not going to be that way anymore, because that was ridiculous horse shit, quite frankly. Job prospects are different. It is a common truth now that many assistants, again, like I said before, are going to be competing for superintendent's jobs with other superintendents, with experienced people, all that sort of thing. It is common, to maybe have to make a lateral move. I was the second assistant here. I may have to move into the first assistant there, kind of thing, or even first assistant to first assistant from a place that's a little better budget. That kind of thing. The job prospects are different, and it requires a certain amount of patience. And quite frankly, I don't think our business as a whole, I don't think our university types, I don't think our associations or whatever are being as realistic as they should be about the fact that this is a slower transition than it used to be, that it does require some patience, that it may require some lateral movement, and that superintendent's jobs are not as plentiful as they used to be. They are there, no question about it. But if your ultimate goal is to be a golf course superintendent at a, top 100 place or a tour event type place or a, super high-end country club, because that's what you've been sold, think about that. Because maybe that's not the deal. I have a young assistant friend who's a super good guy who recently transitioned to a golf course superintendent's job. And he worked really hard at the club that he was at, and he got a great recommendation from his super, and he got his first super's job, and it's it. And he was bummed, and he called me and he said, should I take this? And it was, at a municipal type operation, right? Public golf. And he had come up in the country club world. And, it didn't look the same, right? Didn't look, nothing looks the same. And yet, and I just said, no, this will be a great gig for you. And the guy calls me a few months later and says, you know what? I really like it here. Like, the expectations aren't quite as big. The political pressures aren't there, but I still have to put on a product, and I really like it. And I like the pace of this. And am I wrong to feel that way? And should I be looking for, that club job and whatever? Like, well, what's going to make you and your family and, your world happy? Prestige or, a predictable thing, right? And they're like, well, I got to think about that. And I said, yeah, you got to think about that. You really got to think about that. I'm convinced that many, many great jobs get overlooked by people because of, this thing about status, right? The status of the club, the status of all that sort of stuff. Listen, your job prospects are good, but you have to be willing to look and open your eyes and say, maybe this is okay. Maybe this move is going to be okay for me. A lot of it has to do with area. If you're moving sometimes to a rural area where there's one golf course, it can be a little tougher to get out of there. Same thing for some international opportunities, but again, we'll talk about that later. Sorry to tease you on all these topics, but there's so many of them, huh? Listen, there are great job prospects in our business. They're not as many as they used to be. A number that I heard the other day from a credible source, I would say, is that there were about 400. There were 400 assistants that transferred their membership to superintendent type status in the GCSA last year. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? So again, a lot of that could be shuffling of job titles and things like that, but still there are prospects out there. They're just not what they used to be. So please keep that in mind. You may have to work a little bit longer. You may have to look at 1, 2, 3 assistance jobs before that super's job comes along, if that's what you want to do. Now, let's get to the next one, which is kind of a subtitle of a subpoint, I guess. Not everybody, and this is no bullshit, okay? Not everybody is cut out to be a golf course superintendent, and there is nothing wrong. And I'm so fucking tired of hearing this. I got it from the chat. 20 years ago, I got mailings every week about assistant or superintendent jobs, and there's a lot of assistance jobs open. A lot of them. TurfNet's filled with them. GCSA is filled. There's a lot of assistance jobs. Yeah, no. Now they only come during the off season. That is really true. That's good. Listen, the assistant superintendent's position is an amazing position. Remember what I said before? It's a great career. And for some of you, and please hear this the right way, because our business has been so wired that everybody has to be a golf course superintendent, right? But for some of you, being an assistant is where you need to be. Listen, I'm gonna think back. Okay. I loved being an assistant superintendent. I loved being a second assistant. I loved being a crew foreman. I loved it, man. We worked our asses off. We had fun on the crew. We got along. We did cool shit. We made stuff great. We had a lot of pride in our product. I loved being an assistant. I wore my shorts every day, and and it was just a good gig. I get to be outside. I brought the dog sometimes. I mean, my God, it was such a good gig, right? And I remember one day after I just got the shit beat out of me at a finance and audit committee meeting at the club that I was at. We had this, I don't know how they got, part of it is because there was a homeowners association deal, and so, but they had a finance and audit committee, and they I don't know why they did this. And somebody in the chat, Sean, says I miss shorts, right? And I had a beautiful tan. But our finance and audit committee at the Lake Wildwood Club was, I think they just picked the gnarliest people in the whole property and just said, here, be on this committee. I mean, God, they were ruthless. The budget process there was ruthless. I've rarely seen, and those of you who work in and around homeowners associations, I think you know what I'm talking about. It's hard. Private clubs sometimes can be so much easier compared to the private club homeowner thing. It just goes a step further, right? And my finance and audit committee was filled with some of the biggest assholes that I've ever met in my life. Quite frankly, they were. And so, I go through 8-hour budget meeting. 8 hours, right? 9 to 5. Never saw the golf course that day. And then turned around and did it again the next day for like another 4 hours. So like 12 hours total in front of these people, grilling me about every fucking number. Right? And I walked out of that whole thing going, I think I just want to go grow grass. I don't I didn't sign up for this shit. Nobody told me about this. Nobody told me about Mr. Brownfield, the complete Nazi moron. I don't know what else to say. I mean, the guy was just insane. And he was head of the committee, man. Oh, so hard. The stuff they said to me, the questions I got, it was, oh man. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? I need to be an assistant superintendent somewhere. I need, you know what? I didn't get to see my crew that day. I didn't get to see anybody that day. I looked at my assistant and said, you got it, and I'll have the radio with me, but I don't even know, this is before cell phones and texting and stuff. So I think what I said to him is, I said, if it's a dire emergency, come get me. Otherwise don't. I'm not here. And I'm in this, I'm in the audit committee. God. And all I wanted to do was go back to growing grass. Let me tell you something. Please be careful about what you wish for. And please think about yourself. Think about your family. Think about your mental health. Where I was talking about mental health and all that sort of stuff. Some people will thrive as assistant superintendents. And if you haven't listened to a damn thing that I've said all day, here's something I want to say right now. And I'm saying it to the business at large. Okay? I am tired of assistants being paid nothing and having this carrot dangled in front of them that they might get to be a golf course superintendent somewhere if they do everything right. Right? Before it was true. Now it's a whole different story. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be a career assistant superintendent. And you know what? As a business, as an industry, we have got to step up. We've got to step up and pay these people what they're worth. I can't believe some of the salary numbers that I hear. It's gross. It's abusive. Really. We are asking these people, our assistants, to do amazing feats of strength and wonder, and paying them not much and dangling this carrot that one day, and that one day for some people should never come. And what I don't get, and this is from the top down, and now I'm speaking to you general managers and stuff, okay? So listen up. And if you'd like to have a phone conversation with me or a face-to-face conversation with me, if you're a general manager or in that position, I would love to sit down with you and have that conversation, okay? And I'll do it for free. I'll do it off the clock. Zoom, phone, whatever. But I don't get it. What's going on here with this whole salary cap thing? I don't get it. And that's right. From the chat, we treat them like forced labor. If their salary, they get paid less than minimum wage. Yes. And they're, I'm not going to address the individual laws that go in all that, but there's some legal stuff and some, anyway, we'll deal with that later. The issue of compensation in total. But here's what I want to say. Okay. I am watching golf courses, and now that golf has had this really big year, right? Like 2020 started crazy, but then it kind of got great. And now 2021, is looking like, hey man, golf, at least we can golf, right? And then I hear about these big spending projects. We're going to spend $8 million renovating the clubhouse. We're going to put in the $2.5 million pool. We're going to do this big renovation and all that sort of stuff. And you got an assistant superintendent making $30,000. And they can't afford a home. They can't afford to, they can't afford to live anywhere near where some of these golf courses are. I mean, no, I am a no for that. And I can't believe that all of us haven't stepped up bigger. And along the same lines, and again, we're going to get to that when we talk about the no bullshit truth of being a superintendent, is that superintendent salaries have not kept pace either. I asked a question the other day on Twitter, and I said, and forgive me, I'm getting passionate, I'm getting all... I asked a question on Twitter, and I said, hey, assistants, when's the last time you went and asked for a raise? And, you should have seen some of the answers, right? They were never. Some of them were, well, I get kind of a cost of living. Some of them were, well, the clubhouse controls that. And there were some positive answers, but not many. probably the 30 or so people that responded to that, there wasn't that much positive. Let me tell you something. This is wrong. We're doing it wrong. We're doing it wrong. I made 30 grand as an assistant superintendent in the 80s. $33,000 was my last assistant salary. Plus benefits that were real. Okay. And I didn't need it, but there was a vehicle available to me if I wanted it. I opted not to do that, but I had a truck and I like my truck. And I lived fairly close because I could afford to live close because I think my rent, then was $400 for my 2-bedroom place. And shortly thereafter, as I was transitioning to be the superintendent of that place, I was able to buy a home. And my first house cost 68 grand. Right? That very same house, the last time it sold, we're talking 1,400 square feet, right? That very same house sold for 280 grand. I wish I'd have kept it. I lost money selling that house so I could make a big time job move. Do you see what I'm getting at here? We're doing it wrong. There is nothing wrong with being a career assistant, okay? And if that's what you want to do, you should be able to do that. And you know what? As an industry, this is my rant. As an industry, we should be figuring it out. Owners, general managers, all of you, it's time for the indentured servitude thing. Hey, you might get a superintendent's job, all that sort of thing to stop. Okay. And again, we're going to cover this with supers too, because I have some things to say about superintendent compensation. And for some of you supers, I don't get it. You're knocking down $110, $120, $130, and your assistant's making 40 grand, and you guys are living in the same place, doing the same stuff, raising the same family, buying the same food. How does that work for you? How does that work? Everybody, listen, we've got to figure this out as an industry. We got to figure this out. And I can't stand watching country clubs, golf facilities, all this sort of stuff waste money. And I'm talking about wasting money. Wasting money in the front of the house and having key staff who are, and by the way, look at the job announcements that come out. We want our assistants to be educated, right? 4-year degrees are not uncommon in the thing. We want them to be licensed if there's pesticide licensing going on. We want their world to be trouble-free. We want all this stuff, right? And you're going to pay them 30, 35 grand, maybe 40 in this economy, in this world? No. Here's a no bullshit truth. We are doing it wrong when it comes to assistant superintendent salaries, and I'm sick of it. And you should be too. And I don't want to hear, well, the club can't afford it. And I am watching clubs waste money right now like there's no tomorrow. What do you think your assistant thinks when the trailer rolls in and 120 grand worth of fairway mowers rolls off that trailer? Okay. And they're still, and we'll use the higher end. Maybe they made 50,000 that year. Some of these guys that are getting paid some overtime and all that sort of stuff. Really? Degrees, licensing, managing people, taking care of this amazing asset and all that sort of stuff. And this is what we're paying them. And we're expecting them to have family lives, get along, all that sort of stuff. Listen, no wonder some of these people are burnt out, are cooked. And I get and now when I go on a visit and I get to talk to an assistant, I see it in their eyes and they're like, I don't know, I work for a 35-year-old super. He's not going to retire in a long time. I guess I'm staying here for a while till the next big thing comes open. One guy says to me, he says, I've interviewed for three supers jobs. I was the only assistant interviewing in the whole thing. How can I possibly get the gig? There There is nothing wrong with wanting to be a career assistant. In fact, you know what? I want to be a career assistant. I would love it. If my body were physically able and I was 10, 15 years younger, okay, and I'm not kidding, this is no bullshit, I'd be applying for some of these jobs that I see. I saw one yesterday. I actually texted the superintendent and I said, hey, can I apply? We were having a big laugh about it. It was for a second assistant's job at a place that I'm probably going to tip my cards here, but it's a fantastic golf course that I've worked with since construction in a place that I love, with a superintendent that I love. And his number one, his first assistant is such a good guy. And I'm like, can I just come and work with you guys? You know, and I'd do it for the 40 grand. I would, or maybe it's 50. I don't know. I loved being an assistant superintendent. Why have we quashed that in our business? Why have we said to everybody, hey, you need to grow up. You need to aspire to the greatness of this position and all that sort of stuff, right? And then some of these poor people end up, in really gnarly superintendent spots where they get a staff of 8 and they're doing all. It's like, really? This is what we sold? And they're making an extra 15 grand. So instead of, 40, 35 or 40, they're making, 45, 50, 55,000. We've done it all wrong. And I have to blame management and managers and sometimes management companies. I'm sorry, but you guys, what are you thinking? Hey, we have a portfolio of X number of golf courses and eventually we'll get you a superintendent's job. In the meantime, they have to pay their bills. They have to eat. They have to take care of their things. They're getting married. They're starting to have kids. What are we doing? And that's my rant for today. All right, the no bullshit truth of being a golf course assistant superintendent. Guess what? You're going to be sweeping up behind a lot of people. You're gonna have to take care of all the little details and all the little things that nobody else wants to do. I remember, and I'm literally talking about sweeping up. I used to sweep the break room almost every day, almost as a mental health kind of thing. You're gonna do some of the jobs nobody wants to do. You're gonna take care of some of the things nobody wants to take care of. That's how it goes. All right, those are my points today. Listen, I love our business. I love it so much. You guys, I've never been more excited about golf, and I say it, not with how do I put it? I understand where the issues and the hassles are. I know where they sit. I understand all that. If somebody says to me, hey, I'm thinking about a career in turfgrass. Should I do it? Yes. The answer is yes. And then here's the caveat. This is what you're going to deal with. There's going to be some long days. You're not always going to get paid a huge amount a month. Last 2-bedroom apartment I rented was $2,000 a month, or house apartment, Yeah. I know. We have to take care of people, and please don't label me as the whole, well, everybody, minimum wage and all that sort of stuff. No, come on. Look, it cost 8 times as much to get a 4-year degree as it did when I was coming into the business. It costs, here it is, right? Here's this 2-bedroom thing, $2 grand a month. I get $2 grand a month. I wasn't taking home $2 grand a month when, I could just swing my 650. 1-bedroom outside Boston now is $2,000 for me, Kevin. Amazing. See, everybody says paying dues. Oh, that's good to pay. What about that? Isn't that paying dues? Like, I have to live near this place, and it's one of the most expensive places in the country. We always used to talk about Monterey. We always used to talk about, Boston, Long Island, all the hotbeds, Philly, Southern California, Seattle. These places have gotten expensive. We can thank the .com world for all of that, right? Yeah, it's paying dues, isn't it? So, Mr. Manager, just to hit this point one more time, Mr. General Manager, Mr. Owner, Mr. Board Member, all that sort of stuff. Please, as you're thinking about spending millions on your facility to kind of get it back up to snuff and everything, what are you doing for your staff? What are you doing for your key staff? I'm talking about technical people here. We're talking about somebody who, if they get it wrong, there are no greens on the golf course. They go up in smoke that day. This is no joke. This business is no joke. This business is live or die by a whole set of things that are sometimes controlled by the weather and all that sort of stuff. And it requires smart people. It requires education. And I'm all for that. But we've got to take care of people. We have to. We have to. This is the no bullshit truth about being an assistant superintendent. The good, bad, and the ugly. All right, thanks for listening. Thank you so much for being here. Please like, please subscribe, please share this. This is what I'm doing. This is the thing that I'm doing, and I'm so excited about it. Look, I have this thing. This is spaceships back here. Look at my condo. I wonder what that would cost a month, huh? I love you guys and I appreciate you. Thank you, chat, for joining in. You guys have been awesome. If you're watching this recorded, thank you very much for watching. Again, liking and subscribing means the world to me. And please keep your spirits high. And as we come into the season, for most people, except our friends in the Southwest who are who are dealing with the season, in the Southeast, in the South, right? Just be ready. Have some zeal. That's where it comes from. The zeal, right? I'm Dave Wilber. I'm the Turfgrass Zealot. And I appreciate you so very much. What are we going to do here? I think we're going to click the right button. Click the right button. Click the right button. No, not that button. Ending. It says it's live. Okay. Gosh, I know how to run my tools, don't I? Great. Here we go. Let's try that again. Hi, I'm Dave Wilber, and I'm going to leave you. Sorry, technology. Have a great time. Thanks for watching, and we will be back on Fridays with another version of our live time. And I stream every day on Twitch. You can catch me there. It's the Wilberforce there, and follow me on Twitter for all of the notifications and all that. Thanks much. Take care.